Good day, everybody. This is Shane Pearson with LeadSpace, and I'm joined by Marge Brea. And we are going to do a presentation and really an open discussion today on best practices for improving sales territory management, both with just best practices that we use and that we've learned over the years, and then more specifically, how you can use LeadSpace to be part of how you, one, best run your sales territory management, but also giving you ways to optimize your sales territories and go to market as we're all looking and starting to plan that process as we go into the next year. So without further ado, Marge, welcome.
Great, thank you. So everyone, we have been, at LeadSpace, certainly we work with dozens and dozens of companies on marketing and sales operations strategies. And specifically, especially at this time of the year, optimizing sales territories, is totally top of mind. And so after working, at many companies and working across companies now currently, we've come up with 5 kind of easy steps, quote unquote, that you can use to go ahead and get at the best sales territories. And when you think about it, it's really about how do you go ahead and not only get equitable territories set up, but within each one of those territories, even more importantly, what's the best account plan and coverage and assignments that you can make in terms of upping your odds to hit your revenue goals for next year. So the 5 steps are, start pretty basically around, understanding and identifying your ideal customer profile, then looking at how that is applied against your total addressable market. And you want to do that at the territory level. And then you want to map the, as we call it, the terrain of the territory. Who are the customers, who's in market, like what's white space, all of that kind of good stuff. And then go directly into accounts and specific contacts or people plans within those accounts so that, you take the full, if you will, haystack of opportunity and go all the way, way down to what are the smallest number of accounts that you can hit your targets with a super low CAC or customer acquisition cost and much higher odds of getting closable revenue. So why don't we dig in on the first step, Shane? So if we can go to the next slide. So the first thing, as I mentioned, is we start with the ideal customer profile. Now, that's a question, that typically, someone is asked and like, oh yeah, we definitely know our ICP. Or secretly inside, you might be saying, well, it's like this size of company, and it's like people in this kind of industry, that sort of thing. And that's a good practice, right? So many people kind of the deals that they've done over the last couple of years and know either by just applying the firmographics, those deals, is it by this company size, by industry, by geography, or that sort of thing. And it's not an easy thing to do, frankly. And so that's one way to do it. It's a good practice. It's better than just kind of not doing it, right? But the best practice is to actually use AI modeling. And in my roles over the last literally 10 years, I have been personally using AI modeling to do this kind of work continuously for the last 10 years. So the best practice actually is to, in olden times we'd call it do a regression, but the truth of the matter is it's create an AI model based on positive outcomes and understand the 10 or 20,000 signals that matter. What are the first, second, third order effects, train the model, et cetera, and actually get a statistical model. And you can see ours actually on the lower left there, that we had, and I'm just showing you an older one. I'm not showing you our current one because I don't want to give the competitive view, if you will. But we, you basically are creating an overall model to say, what is the lift that would be applied to certain segments, A segments, B, C, D, which could, A's and B's, if you can see the data here, would say that you have a pretty high odds of closing those kind of accounts. And you can use that ICP scoring to actually categorize, the top 20% of available accounts in the market to go after. So for those of you who are at small companies, you can also look at, the big or other competitors who have closed business in your market and use those as lookalikes as well. That's kind of a pro tip in terms of what to do if you're a smaller company and trying to do that. But any reasonable company size where you've got a number of at least inbound leads and opportunity conversion, doing it statistically is the way to go. Shane, over to you.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the details. And once I go through this, then I'm also going to do a brief demo and show the LeadSpace tools that are used to configure and then analyze and use this data. So the first part is looking at total addressable market. And so as far as this format, good practice would be that you gather your total universe of who the opportunities that map to who you sell to. And there's a lot of different third-party data tools available to get those approximations. And that's what I always tell people is that, if you're going to at least start somewhere, step one is good practice, get an approximate, TAM. And you can do that with your third-party data. Lots of people do that. But a best practice is to take the next step. And the next step is to combine first some third-party data using a customer data platform so that you can understand a lot more about your TAM. And also, this is where you can take advantage of your AI models to use things like fit scores, like Marge was just talking about, where you can understand who the most likely people are to buy, and then other types of scoring as part of that. And I'll show that in the demonstration. Because what that takes you from is, instead of the approximate model, which is all third-party data, is something that's much more accurate, because now you're including your actual first-party data. That's your data of who you successfully sold to, and taking that into account to further improve the targeting. Now, the pro tip on this would be to go the next step farther, because a lot of times what people are doing when they do TAM is that they're looking at it from only one point of view. And a lot of times that's just by solutions that they sell. So the next step would be to create views and go into the specific sales territories that you're selling and understand what the TAM looks like at that level, and take it down to how you sell. This is a really great way, as we get into talking more about the sales territory management. This is how you either go from top down or bottoms up to build territories and build them in an equal fashion. It's also a great way to understand where there's opportunities for cross-sell and upsell over time, if you go through those steps.
Yeah, and on the just to jump in, if you look at the diagram there or the photo there, this kind of shows that in this example, there's just over 40,000 companies that would be in that TAM, right? 6 billion in revenue. And then specifically within Texas, if you look at the geographic map, you can see that there's 3,100 companies. And in this example, 7 of them are customers. So you've got a whole bunch of white space to go after just in Texas alone.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then what's really fun about this is how you take it to the next level, and let's kind of talk about those steps. So mapping the territory, which I just alluded to, was we found the TAM, and now we want to understand where companies exist and how we drill down and start to look at that. And so that's where that was on our last image, because we're showing consistent images across these. But what we'd want to do is start to now look at both white space as well as where customers exist. And so this is where, if we again look at these sample data, and I'll point this out when I go to the demo, In this case, we've set up a broad TAM definition. So we see, how many companies in the top left are included. We see what the white space is, which that's going to be opportunities to sell into net new companies. That's the definition we're using. And what we allow you to do is upload your own customer data, and that's how we come up with what's the percent of addressable market that you're not covering right now. So then what you're able to do is either use this higher level view, or you can dive into the data within LeadSpace or export it into another BI tool. And I think what's interesting about this is live data. So, a lot of times when people are doing TAMs and then territory management, those are like separate exercises. I know, Marge, you've probably done quite a few of those, and that's the problem, right? The data, it's different data, and then you don't know how to map them. And so the pro tip here is, this is where you can really start to dive in, because you've got both first and third party. You can see where are the renewal opportunities, where are the cross-sell opportunities, where are the net new, and you can balance how you go about deploying either your sales team or your go-to-market activities, and how you spend money to go after those different strategies. What else would you have on that, Marge, kind of just from your own experiences?
Yeah, I mean, the key thing obviously is resource planning, and so if you do know the terrain of each one of these territories, then it becomes far easier, right? And you'll see scoring and other things that can be applied to this as well for each one of the territories. You're really trying to put your resources at the best odds, right? And so this terrain gives you the best odds for which, is it Texas that's going to be the best, or is it California or whatever? It's it's interesting in this example, behind that little map, or that little box, there's a heat map of the states, et cetera, that have the most opportunities in them. And so just having that kind of view of, instead of gut checking that, Texas, New York, and California are the top, you can actually look at then, all the way down to a very small segment, which territories to really go after.
Yep. I think that's a great segue into where this to me now, if that wasn't exciting enough, everything else we just showed you, the part that I get excited about is that what we can do with now the TAM and the sales territory linkage is we can take it all the way through into people's CRM and marketing automation tools. And so, again, I'm going to demonstrate this in a minute, but let's talk about how we're putting these pieces together. So we've taken that customer profile. Now we've then defined a total addressable market that links to that. Then we've done sales territory planning that links to our market and includes both first and third party data. Now what we're going to do is something that's really unique. And I say that because I've done this type of thing in different companies. And it's not often you can take and actually operationalize your TAM into your sales territory planning. And now we can actually use it in day-to-day sales and marketing operations. So what we're showing here is an example of a Salesforce report that I'll demo, but let's talk about the good, best, and pro tip practices. So the good practice would be that what you want to do is, one, put all that great stuff we just talked about to work, but then also line it up with your intent signals. And generally, if you're using intent, whether that's from LeadSpace or another vendor that we're plugging in for you, that's a weekly refresh. And that's important because you want your data to reflect those changes in your intent signals. And we incorporate those into our scoring. Now, the best practice is going to be that you're also integrating other types of scoring. And this is something we talk about quite a bit at LeadSpace, is that if you're only using intent, that's a nice directional. This is where we get back to approximating. It's a nice directional idea of people that might be interested, but it's one signal. And when you get into really leveraging, data, and whether that's data science or AI or just thinking about data, it's better to have multiple signals that can give you confirmation or correlation. And so we really like to use a combination of signals. And when we plug in our models, this is where we talk about propensity to purchase, which is the fit score. We talk about intent, which is straightforward. Are people showing interest in different types of ways in different things that you're selling. So from a topics standpoint, it's a way to think about SEO. And then there's engagement, which is really the activities that people are doing. And one of the things we really like to do is plug in engagement by using your existing marketing automation scoring engine. So that's your Marketo scores, Pardot scores, other type of scores. Because when you have those three signals together, you get a really nice confirmation and correlation effect in terms of being able to understand both accounts and people that that are interested and maybe ready for you to contact them. So that's the combination of good, best, pro tip. Anything you add to that, Marge, from your own experience?
Just that one thing to remember is that intent signals are only at an account level. And for the most part, you're probably getting those files every week into your marketing department. And chances are that they're not being integrated into Salesforce or your whatever your Salesforce automation tool is, right? And so they're probably sitting for campaign work, but not letting your salespeople know exactly, what accounts are trending for what, right? So if you
Yep.
look at, kind of the topics, et cetera, that can be then applied at the account level for a salesperson or their BDR to go ahead and outbound on, the personalization, et cetera, can be very, very informative.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so now what we've done is we've linked our sales planning to how to identify not just who the accounts are in a territory, but the accounts that are showing interest.
Interesting.
And that was step 4. And then step 5, and this is where now we do the next drill down. And I kind of alluded this with the idea of how we are using those different scores together. But now it's okay, not just who are the accounts, who are the right contacts in the accounts based on the different information scoring and who's in your database, obviously. So the good practice would be you need to match up your different databases. And again, this is one of the things we help people with. So you need your marketing automation, whether that's Marketo, Pardot, HubSpot, others where you're doing scoring. You need that to be aligned and integrated with your Salesforce prospects and account model. And that's just your good practice. The best practice, and this is the next level of where persona scoring, which is at the person level, using that with engagement scoring to identify who the best people are to talk in an account. And again, I'll show that in a minute. But if you know that there's certain personas that you want to target because that's who buys your product, whether it's market operations, digital marketing, maybe you're selling into IT operations or development, whatever those are, it's important to automate those types of scores so they're correlated. The pro tip is that you can use this to really focus and target how you are going to market. And what we see this helps a lot of people to do is to lower their regional sales and marketing data purchases because they've got so much more information. They're not just spraying and praying, as we say in the industry. They can be much more focused, know, for example, where they have plenty of contacts versus they don't, is one example. Other stuff you add here, Marge?
No, that's really it. And, because what we're trying to do is, I think the old adage especially in marketing has been, quantity, right? You want to get more and more and more and more and more contacts and demo, data people, et cetera. And that's all true. But when it comes down to it, you really want to only go after as few as possible with your best quality efforts, right? And
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
what we're trying to do every step of the way is say, okay, here's all the territories in the world or companies in the world you can go after. Here's how you create the territories that matter. And then how you help the account teams to identify sales and marketing on who exactly to go after and for what reason. And that's the pro tip, really.
Yep.
Let's look at the product.
So I'm going to switch over to the demo. And let's see. It's always fun on, let's see. Okay, let's see.
There you go.
Always fun doing the share on Bright Talk. So let's start with the studio view, and just wanted to show some of the things we've configured here. So the first part is just showing this is LeadSpace Studio. So this is our tool for working with different data and doing segmentation in LeadSpace. And what I wanted to show is just a couple of things here where what we've done is we've defined a TAM, and this is just an example one that we've set up using an example data set. And what this allows us to do is to see the broad brush. We can also come in here and do some different searches. Oh, this one is actually not set up with multiple regions, so I won't do that. But this is the top level view. And so if we had something more specific, you could drill in. You can also create your own custom segments over here. And what I would then do is come over here and show you how if instead you just wanted to, configure them yourself. And so I'm going to build an approximation of the last segment that we had. And what we had there was, in that definition, was employees are greater than 1,000. And what you can see is we're working against our graph of millions of companies over here, and in this case multiple millions. And what we want to do is get down to the same TAM. So we're going for the companies over 1,000. We're going for United States, and then again, this is where we're trying to link up with the same concept. So you can see we ended up with the same 37,000 companies here, billing it by hand. But if I was going to be doing something more targeting, I might be just saying, hey, I only want to look at propensity to purchase people that are A and B scored. And so that's now continuing to let us filter this down into something more specific. And then, I might also just want to see high intent only, so let's only look at people that are currently scoring. And in our case, we are updating intent weekly. And what we're seeing is, okay, hey, we're down to 224 companies. So this is just a real simple way to show how easy it is to go find the people that, in our case, we're talking about they're, scoring very high on our fit model, propensity to purchase, and they've just shown intent, recently. Any thoughts, Marge? I know you use this all the time too, in terms of, your own use.
Yeah, and so basically, guys, you're taking that 169,000 down to 31,000, down all the way to the 224 companies, and that's actually a workable number to go after with BDR motions or other things like that, right? So what you're trying to do is every step of the way understand where you're going to use higher cost methods versus lower cost methods, and where you have the best odds every step of the way. And once Shane goes to the Salesforce, I mean, we can even take it even lower than this to not even just high intent companies, but companies who are actually searching for specifically, in our case, let's say lead space. Yep. So anyway, and that number actually is 41 in this. Yeah. We can go all the way down.
Yeah, and so now I'm switching to how this comes up in a Salesforce report. And given the amount of time we have, I'll keep it a little short. But what we've done, and I'm not going to scroll over because there's actual personal data over here in this example. So I'm just going to show the main items. But what this is a list, and it's all accounts in this example and contacts. And what we're doing is showing all these people, and what we've got is the companies and by their fit score. So that's the A, B, C, D. Then we've got the intent, which is here. And then what we're doing is showing the record count of how many contacts are in each of these segments or boxes, as we call it. That's why it's a 12-box report. You've got all these little different items. And so what's great is, again, based on a campaign, you can very quickly decide, well, what are the counts that I want to look at? Or more specifically, when you get down to that count, now what I want to do is understand who are the most likely people that I want to go after. And this is where bringing in the engagement score. In our case, we use Pardot. So you can start to see who the people that are more lit up in your account and interacting. And our scoring model, the higher the number is the better. So, I might come down here and I'm doing a campaign that's aimed at a digital marketing solution. So I would come down here and say, okay, well, this person, Jeff, man, they're at 143. We probably want to be reaching out to them because maybe we're doing a real high touch targeted campaign. Here's another contact that's showing up. They're in demand gen though, so maybe we want to include, maybe we don't. So this is the way that we use it. I know this was fairly high level, but this is a standard report that we put together and work with customers. And again, this can be used day-to-day line of work by BDRs, by marketing to really more finely tuned campaigns.
Yeah.
Anything else you add, Marge?
Yeah, our sales and BDRs actually use this from a territory standpoint every week for outbounding, as well as then for conversations going forward, right? Where you can say, hey, listen, looks like you guys are interested in this kind of these kind of things that come from the intent signals. We've got scoring then, associated with, this is the right persona to go after. And these are our A and B accounts where, frankly, as a company, whether we're in sales or marketing, we'll spend a ton of money to go after companies who are A and B. And the cool thing is we're aligned across sales and marketing. It's not like, one side is doing one thing or the other. So that's what I would add, Shane.
Yeah, and I think that's a great summary. So we're at the end here. We do have time to fit in a couple questions. We'll probably keep our answers a little briefer since we're running to the end of the time limit. But again, a summary of everything we went over today in terms of optimizing your sales territories and the 5 steps that we just went over. And with that, let's see what questions we've got. And we have 2 minutes in our extended time, Marge. So I'll do the first one and keep it brief. What is the difference about how LeadSpace generates TAM? A lot of companies say they can generate total addressable markets. And I'll repeat a quick overview of what I provided before. Big differentiation for LeadSpace is first that we allow you to combine your own data with third-party data. So you go from an approximation to something that's much, much more accurate. Next, instead of just stopping there, we also can allow you to use the TAM to generate and maintain and update your sales territory planning. And so we let you take that TAM and operationalize it. And then the last part, which we just showed in the demo, is that our scoring that's used for those first 2 steps flows all the way through to your day-to-day sales and marketing operations. And you can use that to drive and focus your sales teams as well as your go-to-market. So I hope that answers your question. And then for you, Marge, here's one. How does LeadSpace help sales reps prioritize the accounts and contacts that have the highest return on investment?
I think that's basically what we showed in the presentation. We basically show the universe of possibilities, pare that down to the TAM and ICP that's most interesting for your company, and then identify the companies and the contacts who are exhibiting the behavior and the characteristics that will have the highest return on investment for you. And so that's that proverbial haystack all the way down to the needle, and that's what we do.
Okay, that's a great answer. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for joining me today, Marge. It's always fun to co-present, and thanks for everybody for coming.
Great. Thanks, guys.